You've tuned into Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes. Your access to success strategies and more to help you move onward and upward with your life. Listen in each week as she interviews others who have really taken their essence to the next level and truly unpaused their life. Now here's your host, Dr. Callie Estes.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. This is Dr. Callie Estes, and I am founder of the Addictions Academy, the Addictions Coach, and Rehab Rescue. Welcome to Unpause Your Life. This is a great podcast where we showcase people who have done something extraordinary with their life. I welcome you, and I hope you enjoy all of our guests.
On my way, found a reason to wake up another day.
Before we get started, let's hear this short message from one of my supporters.
All the things that you won't do.
Did you know 81% of Americans would like to become a published author? Chances are you might be one of them. What's stopping you? Writing and publishing a book takes a lot of work and is expensive, right? Well, not anymore. For your next book project, or even your first, team up with Hassle-Free Books. They make it so easy to become an author. They remove all of the fuss and struggle and make it smooth and simple. And it's far more affordable than you could ever imagine. Go to hasslefreebooks.com and use promo code UNPAUSE to receive a 10% discount off of any book project. Get started right away and become a published author in as little as 45 days. For your free 1-hour book formula guide, which will show you just how painless it can be to become an author, head to hasslefreebooks.com today.
All right. Thanks again for joining me. Let's get started with today's show.
Took a walk down the dark road where they said that I shouldn't go. I knew the dangers of life.
Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Callie Estes with Unpause Your Life, presented to you by the Addictions Coach and the Addictions Academy. And we are here with Josh Temple, TV host, contractor, and DIY expert. You remember him from the network show House Crashers and Disaster House. He was also on Will and Grace and Curb Your Enthusiasm. He's with us today to talk about a specific project that he's doing with Boys Town. Welcome, Josh. How are you today?
I'm great, Callie. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Tell us what you're doing now. I know you've been on everything from Flipping the Block to Beach Flip to Dream Home, Rose Parade, even Crashers. And now you're doing something a little different. So tell me first about that kind of stuff. What is that like? Is it fun? Is it exciting? Is it scripted? Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, sure. So for about 8 years, I worked solely for HGTV and DIY Network, both those sister networks. I'm a licensed contractor, and I got into, once I got into it, it just kept rolling. I mean, House Crashers was lucky enough to do 170 episodes, and I was able to do other shows alongside that. And I was steeped in the construction world, and I loved it. And it really matched well with my desire for entertainment. So yeah, I mean, I did all sorts of different shows for them. When one went down or one took a break, a hiatus, I'd jump on the other one. And it was just such a wonderful time. I mean, it was so much fun to travel around the country and meet all these people, teach what I know, and guide people.
Now, that's so interesting. You combined acting and construction. Has that ever been done?
I think it's being done a lot now. It's funny because I got into construction in 93 and I got into TV around 98, and I got into TV by accident. I was just doing like improv comedy for fun. And it's one of those don't quit your day job sort of things. I was just doing it for fun. And it turned into, hey, do you want to be in a commercial? And I liked being in a commercial, and I loved the residual mail money. So I kept on both paths, and both just kept going. So I moved to LA, and instead of being a waiter, I was working for contractors and building and stuff. And then eventually, this home improvement came around 2003 was my first show, and I've just sort of been doing it ever since.
Oh, wow. So that sounds like it's a lot of fun. So you're comedy and construction.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And, I've been so lucky to be able to do both, sometimes one more than the other, but I've been able to do both for quite some time.
So when they're doing these types of TV shows, how do they find the house to work on? Or how do they find the consumer or the client? How do they figure that out?
So every TV show is different. Sometimes you can submit through websites. Sometimes there's casting agencies that are going out on online, like on a Craigslist or something like that, and asking, hey, do you own a bad, whatever the show might be. If it's a garage show, hey, do you have a bad garage, or hey, do you have a desperate backyard or something like that? So they can do it through submissions. They can do it other different ways. The way I did House Crashers was I went into a home improvement store with a camera crew and just started talking to people. And when I found someone that I liked that wasn't scared of the camera and actually had a really good project that I could help them with, that's usually who I chose and went home with.
Oh, very neat. So I have to ask you, I watch Flipping Out with Jeff a lot, and I've noticed some of the people he picks are just unruly, ungrateful, just disasters. Have you ever had any clients like that, where the project is going as planned, but the client isn't going as planned?
100%. Now, I would say the bulk of it is not that way. The bulk of it is most of these people are grateful, but we've had a couple of people that literally are asking me how much that's worth as it's coming in, because they either are going to sell it or because they want to know. And then I actually heard a homeowner tell a friend while we were demoing, he knew the plan, and there was a window was going to stay because it was a custom rounded wood window that we love, but he didn't like it. So he asked one of his buddies, throw a hammer through that window so that they have to replace it. So, I mean, that actually happens. It doesn't happen a lot, but it happens enough to stick out,
Wow. Okay. Now, the people that you worked with that were appreciative, did you ever have somebody that was so appreciative? They said, I'm just so grateful and so excited and so happy that they did something nice for you.
Absolutely. A lot of people, you get these cute little gifts. I mean, the one that immediately sticks to mind, just because this Labor Day weekend I used it again, is there was a couple, a family, but a couple that was, that we were renovating their kitchen, and he was a skater guy. And so at the end of the bill, he brought out two beautiful longboards and said, hey, I know you have a daughter, and this is some of my best times with my daughter have been skateboarding. And so this is for you. And that was probably 7 or 8 years ago. And just this Labor Day, not only did I teach my daughter how to skateboard, and I skateboard with her, but now my son as well. And now I just taught him to ride a bike, and so I skateboard alongside him. And so that's one of those things that it was a gift that just kept giving. And it was just so sweet, and it was such a true and nice gesture. That's
really cool. That's really nice. It's nice to see people that are appreciative and want to share what their passion is with you, which trickle down to the kids. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get a lot of that, and I still talk to quite a bit of them, and these people, the show is I'm building with these homeowners for all 3 days. So they get these skills, and you can see them, they catch the bug. And then later on I get emails and stuff saying, hey, we kept going. We check out what we did to our fireplace, or, what do you think of this wall treatment on the wall? So, I mean, that to me is what it's all about. I mean, you can hand out, I've had shows where you just hand people stuff, and that's great, and everyone's happy and all that, and maybe someone learns something. But the idea of giving something, teaching a man to fish, so to speak, it's just so gratifying. So it sounds like this is the whole bulk of your work, not only the construction, but the TV and the trades and showing people. So is that what's inspired you to do Trade Life? Yes, actually, yes and no. It sort of snuck up on me. The whole impetus was I went to Omaha, Nebraska to do a show, and Boys Town contacted me to do like a promotional thing out there. And so I went out there, just as a TV, personality. So I went out there, and I didn't even know, I didn't know what Boys Town was. And it's an actual town with an actual post office, and it's a school, and it's housing, and they're doing incredible things across the board with kids, and mostly at-risk kids or kids without the privileges of just your average American home. When I walked around there, I asked the question, well, what do these kids do when they turn 18? Because their school goes all the way through high school. And they said, well, that's the rub. That's the problem, because these kids are, they try and reincorporate them back into their lives with their families and all of that. And these kids turn 18, they're no longer wards of the state. There's no longer support. And most of these kids, because maybe they went to Boys Town in lieu of juvenile hall or in lieu of another program. These guys might be a little bit behind in school, or they might be a little bit behind in life. They're not necessarily college ready. So as I was touring the campus, I said, look, you guys, I saw your, they have 12 working carpenters in this because it's a town. They have a plumbing department, an HVAC department, an electrical shop. I mean, they have all these things. I said, well, why don't you teach these kids some trade? And they said, that's so funny. We used to, because Boys Town is actually turning 100 years old this year.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, December is their 100th anniversary. And back in the 40s and 50s, they used to have shop classes and trade schools and automotive classes and things like that. And then it just all went away for whatever reason. And so I said, well, do you have any space for it? And they said, yep. And so I said, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to start by just offering some classes. And I got with some of my, the people that have supported me, like, Rigid Power Tools and Carhartt and Jet Tools, and then Lincoln Electric Welding. And what we did is we set up a construction class, and with all the tools that they need, shop tools and job site tools, just so that they could learn on the right stuff. And we started there, and that took off, and people were very interested. And then we did a small automotive, so almost like an auto shop class. And that took off. And then the welding, apparently, and there's a big, really high need for welding locally in Omaha, and obviously the tradespeople all over the country are needed. But so then I called Lincoln, and they set up an entire welding shop. So we have 3 classes that these kids can go and they can start. And what I did is I got a round table of local contractors, the big boys, and they came to Boys Town and they had lunch with us, and they said, okay, what do these kids need to learn right at 18 to get a starting job with you guys? And they laid it all out, and we said, great. Now, if we teach these kids those things, will you hire them? And they all, were absolutely. And just recently, we're now working with the community college there, Metro, because they also have a shop class and some other sort of like introductory to trade. So we're working with them. And the other thing I want to point out is that the 3 classes that I started were just some. I mean, they already had they have a nursing program. They have a communication and media program. These are all of these sort of apprenticeship programs that we're trying to empower these, high school kids, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, so that they're on the path, so that, maybe college is for them, but they can get into a job and they can actually, start their career. And so that's how it all started back in 2012, I think it was. And it just went like gangbusters. And then the next step of this is trade life. And what that means is, okay, now that we are empowering these kids and giving them the knowledge they need to go out and get jobs, the trade life is almost like an aftercare program, meaning after they turn 18, after they graduate from Boys Town. And what that work is that's mentoring, maintaining safe housing, continuing their employment, basically mentoring the boy or girl and their boss every week, helping them subsidize their housing, giving tools, the right tools for the job. Or, if you're going to try, we're working on a culinary as well. And if these kids come with the right knives, then they're prepared. But in my case, these guys come with the tool bags and the right drills and the right hand tools. then they're ready to go and start their career. There's a community engagement element to it, and it's basically keeping these kids on the right path and out of any at-risk environment or any problems with anything, drugs, the law, anything that basically 18-year-olds fall into all the time.
So not only are you giving them the education behind how to do the job, you're arming them with the tools to do the actual work.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's been the second step. That's been quite frankly, the harder step because, a lot of these kids, okay, what would you rather do? Science or construction? I mean, it's pretty easy. A lot of these kids want to just jump right into this stuff. And they can see the benefits of it. I go over there and I talk to these kids all the time and I'm saying, look, this is what a plumber can make in their fourth year. And their eyes, explode. But so that part was almost the easy part. Getting these kids to come to these classes, getting these kids to learn. A lot of these kids finally feel smart, where their English score might not have been great, but they can tell, or that they can cut a straight line, or they can figure out an angle in a construction class is so gratifying that it's honing in to their talents, that they actually do have talents. They actually are smart. And so that's the easy part. The tougher part is the work after. And that's why I started Trade Life, and I started the program with a GoFundMe page, because that's the most important, to keep them going. Because if you can get them, the statistics, at least from Boys Town, show that if you can keep them on the straight path for 3 years after Boys Town, then they will not regress, and they will become valuable citizens of the country. I mean, law-abiding citizens.
Yeah, that's very accurate. I mean, even in the aftermath here, I'm down here with the Hurricane Irma, and then you had the hurricane in Houston. Trades are absolutely needed. Everything from cutting trees to putting the electrical back up to plumbing. It's just, half of us down here don't even have power at the moment. So the trades are absolutely necessary and, lucrative.
Absolutely.
I can see them being plugged in and working and being very productive. And there's a lot of millennials down here hopping on board, with the skill set to be able to do that. I think that's fantastic what you're doing.
Well, thank you. And I think that a lot of that came from me, from my own experience, which is, I actually fell into construction by accident. And I got in and I came in and said I need a job for 6 weeks. And eight years later, I left that company. But one of the things that was really great for me is, with at least with construction, was, at the end of the day, you can look and say, I did that. I built that house stands because of me. That HVAC works because of me. Those lights go on because of what I did. And that work, that gratification was so, it was just so inherent and visceral for me that I knew other people, it would work with other people as well.
Well, yeah, you're taking kids that have been, probably told their whole life they're stupid and dumb and never going to amount to anything, and they're building something. And then somebody comes in and goes, wow, that's beautiful. Look at that. That's amazing. It gives them a good boost of self-confidence, which is fantastic.
And listen, and you, Callie, would know this way more than I would, but how important is self-confidence versus going out in keeping you on a positive path? How quick are drugs a way out, or breaking the law a way out? How quick is that if you don't have any confidence, if you don't have any faith in what you're going to be in a year?
That's correct. I'm seeing two things with parents. I'm seeing the overindulged parent that does everything for the child, who ends up with no skill set. They can't even do their own laundry because mommy's doing it for them at 30. I've got that type of client. And then I've got the other client that was beaten down by the parents, or there was no parenting at all, and the child kind of roamed the streets and got into trouble and is selling drugs and doing drugs, and it's a disaster. So this is fantastic that these kids can be plugged in with positive role models like yourself, where you could say, look what I've done with my life. Look at all the things I've accomplished, and you can do that too. This is what you need to do. This is how you're going to get there, giving them the tools, giving them the education. It's awesome, because it's literally, I use the analogy, I can give you the tools in the toolbox, but you've got to open up the toolbox and build the house. You're actually doing that for real. So it's kind of cool to be able to say that. Here's the toolbox, here's the tools, here's how you build the house, go. and then they get to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and the whole thing has been sort of also the DIY element in our country is big. I mean, I get it all the time on Twitter or on Instagram. Everyone's showing me, like the DIY part. Sure, it might have taken a little longer, or sure, it might have cost a little bit more, but I did this myself. And so, I mean, this is across the board. This is not a gender thing. This is not a race thing. This is not a financial thing. This is not a status thing at all. I mean, that DIY element is something that I think is so important, period.
It's funny you say that. Every year for Christmas, my sister's the DIY between us in the family. And every year for Christmas, she makes us something. And it always costs her 3 times the amount of what it would cost us to buy it. But she loves it. She's like, she puts a little bow on it. And last year it was body scrub. Everybody got a new flavor of body scrub. So it's just funny because it's true. It's like, grandma knitted you a sweater. It took her a lot longer, but it's really cool. And that's a sweater grandma knitted. And you have it 20 years later because it's something someone did for you, as opposed to something you bought that says made in China on the bottom. So it's very cool.
Right.
Very cool concept.
And to your point, it's probably going to last a lot longer.
I still have the body scrub. So I told her this year, don't send body scrub. Send something else. Yeah. So very cool. Now, Boys Town, is that a nonprofit?
It is. It's a nonprofit. In fact, and look, that what I'm involved with at Boys Town is actually such a small point of what they do. Not only are we, I mean, it's an umbrella, and what they're like behavioral centers, they're medical centers. I know they were credited with inventing a very particular hearing aid of some sort. I mean, their spread is so vast over what they're doing for children. I mean, it's not just, and in behavioral, their hotline is a incredible asset to kids all over the country, and they do so much. So I do encourage everyone to go to boystown.org and just look at the scope of work they do for our kids.
Now, how do people get involved? So let's say if somebody has a child in California and wants to send them there, is that an option?
That's a good question. So the bulk of the kids that I've met, yes, they can be, if their parents, so here's a couple of examples. There's kids that were sent there by the courts that, hey, they did something. In fact, it was just on Boys Town's doing 100 stories for 100 days. And I just saw this one story. This woman was part of she had witnessed a murder, and she was in that house. She was selling drugs for these drug dealers, and she was witness to a murder, and she went to jail for it. Well, because she didn't commit the actual act or whatever, and because it was nonviolent on her part, they sent her to Boys Town. She's now, obviously graduated, moved on, and has her own business. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can go to, you end up going to Boys Town. Some are straight orphans. The mayor of Boys Town, and I think I got this right, because I've known him for a couple of years now, Jason. I'm pretty sure he was sent by a Catholic adoption agency in New Mexico.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so that was just, orphan sent to Boys Town. Parents that, their kids get into drugs or gangs or stuff, they can send them. I think, if the kids are, if the parents are in trouble, addicts or criminals or whatever, I think then they can get appointed to Boys Town. There's a lot of different ways that these kids end up at Boys Town.
Okay.
None of them good.
Okay. And for our listeners, is there a place for them to donate their time or money or anything that Boys Town may need to help with the kids?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll be selfish first, and the first thing is for Trade Life, because that's what I'm setting up to do, and it would just be keep the program going. Is I've got a GoFundMe.com/TradeLife.
We'll put that up for you, so it'll be up on the podcast, so people can go right there and donate that way.
Sure, and then if it's another way is you just go to www.boystown.org, and believe me, you'll find a real quick way to donate. That'll pop up real quick. So both of those are places.
Okay. Now, Trade Life, is that national or is that localized? Where is that exactly?
So this is the great thing about Trade Life. So I've been working with Omaha because that's the first campus, and it's the biggest campus. And it's sort of my place to start everything. And as this thing progresses, I'll move to other campuses, and do that. But the great thing about the Trade Life program is that it's across it's aid for all 11 campuses, because it is mentoring. And you can do this anywhere. These kids are, graduating in all these 11 campuses. We can find them housing in all 11, states, or all 50 states, for whatever that is. Trade Life is sort of all encompassing. So that's why it's so great for me, is that it's not just welders. It's the nurse practitioner that needs a place and get a job and all of that.
Gotcha. Okay, that's fantastic. So we'll put that GoFundMe up for you so that you can get assistance as well to help more kids and help more people.
Thank you, Callie. I need it. I am. There are some certain challenges to the job, and one of them is raising money. And I've sort of taken it back a little bit for the last couple of weeks because of Florida and Texas, and I'm not asking people for that right now, because I know that those donations to the Red Cross and those organizations are so important. But I've been sort of working at this all summer, and it's tough. It's tough to raise money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I completely understand. But you're doing such a good service for the youth that desperately need it. I mean, there's nowhere you go to these high schools and they're barely teaching anymore. It's disciplinarian. It's sit still, be quiet, pay attention. And the kids are coming out with less and less of an education, and there's no parenting. Mom and dad are now both working, and the kids are left to their own devices, and I end up with them at 25 with failure to launch. No job, living at home, no career, no trade, nothing. So it's fantastic. I think it's great. It's going to alleviate me from having clients, which is actually a good thing, because you're going to be doing something productive instead of sitting around doing nothing productive, which is great. So we'll put that up for you to hopefully get some donations to get some things going.
Thank you. Yeah, the goal is not only for these kids at Boys Town, but any high school kid that sort of that needs some direction could come and learn as well. I mean, we would love to open it up and make that training sort of a gold stamp for apprenticeships, and these kids actually can come in and get some direction.
That's fantastic. Now let me ask you, in your construction career, where did you start? What was your first trade?
My first trade was my first real trade, because I did a little bit on Christmas vacations and summer vacations and sweeping and wheelbarrowing scraps of wood. But my first real trade was in heating and air conditioning. And like I said, I fell into it completely by accident, and I loved it. And what I loved about the actual trade I learned was, with heating and air conditioning, you need to know a little bit of plumbing, because you got to run gas lines, and you need to know electrical because you got to hook up the furnace, and you need to know framing because you got to build soffits or alter soffits, or build platforms, or reroute ductwork. So it was a really great first job to be introduced to construction on the whole.
So if any of the kids are listening, any of the millennial kids who want to do something with their lives, where would you tell them to start? If they say, I want to do construction, but I don't really know if I want to be plumbing or electrical, what would be the best starting point for them?
Well, I think that the personalities will sort of, some like electricity, some are terrified of electricity. So I would say at first, there's a lot of different ways to do this, but I would say try it. I mean, look, you go, if you don't have a job and you go and you have a choice of plumber, HVAC, electrical, or framer, pick one and get a job there, and then work there for, 2 years. The worst thing that you're going to do is learn a bunch and make some money. Then if you want to move over to plumber, I mean, that's the other thing, is that these jobs are, especially in commercial sites, you're working with other trades and you can see what other things are doing. So to just pick one and go, and then keep your head up and look around.
My husband's a musician. He's a drummer in a rock band, but his fallback career was an electrician. And I can tell you this, as a wife, it's invaluable when you want a fan moved, or the electric outlet doesn't work, or you want the tiki things changed, and I just say, I need this done. No problem. And it's done quickly, instead of me having to call an electrician and wait for a bid and all that fun stuff. So it's great to even just have, even if, you don't use it 100% in life. It's good to have, to just be handy around the house and be handy with other people. He's out right now doing free work from Hurricane Irma, just helping people get their electric on, and a lady had a pool pump issue. He's fixing that. Just helping other people, utilizing a skill he got 20 some years ago. So I think it's fantastic.
That's awesome. Kudos to your husband. And, yeah, absolutely. Not only that, but even if you don't, you can do little things around your house, but just the knowledge alone is going to save you money when you are actually hiring a contractor. I mean, like, I know a lot about downspouts and gutters, and if I didn't have to, I was doing a show, I didn't have time. I said, send me the quotes, and I could tell who was legit and who wasn't, and what was worth it and what wasn't. I mean, the knowledge alone in just how your house works is invaluable.
It is. And to that aside, he's got an 80-year-old mother, and we're 4 hours from her. So she actually got a bid to have her, recess cans put in her living room, the cans that go up into the ceiling. And she called my husband and she said, well, it was $2,000 for 8 recess cans. And he said, that's ridiculous. He goes, I can do that in 3 hours and it's not that much money. So he literally went up and did it for her for, $100 or $200, whatever they cost. So even just knowing that information to know if you're getting scammed out there or not is invaluable, even if you don't, end up actually doing it.
Yeah, I mean the sort of side benefits of construction knowledge are vast. I mean, I get calls from friends, relatives, buddies, whatever. Hey, does this look right? Or hey, can you come look at this? Or which sometimes to a fault, but that's okay. I've also done a lot of work for my kids' schools because they don't have any money for it. But hey, I built a deck and a bench around a tree, and that was sort of like a little thing. And I brought the kids and I showed the kids what to do. And I'm building a little gas station for the preschool across the street and all of those things. So there's a lot of different ways where it can really work out to help people.
That's fantastic. And you're giving back to the community, which is awesome. So I commend you for that.
Well, it's a little selfish. It feels good. And you show off my kids. I'll never forget when I did this big deck for the elementary school, and my daughter, I heard my daughter tell her friends, yeah, my dad did that. I helped my dad do that.
That's cool. But it's also something that's going to stay for a long time. So as your kids get older and they have kids, if they stay in the same town and raise their kids, they're going to have kids that go to that school. And they're going to say, Grandpa built that. How cool is that?
Yeah.
That'll be neat.
Everything's cool. Everything's cool but the grandpa.
Well, it's coming, it's coming. Well, so how do people reach you? What is your Twitter handle and your Instagram and those things so people can follow you and follow your work?
Twitter and Instagram are both Josh Temple TV. I do not have Facebook. I sort of never got into it, and then I just don't have the time. So it's just Twitter and Instagram. My website is under construction for the last probably 5 years now. So that's coming soon, I hope, but it's strictly, Instagram and Twitter.
You're not missing anything on Facebook. I joke and say it's a bunch of 14-year-old girls constantly complaining. It really is. I don't even use it for anything but business anymore because it's just too complaining. But Twitter's awesome. Instagram's awesome. Well, anything else our listeners should know or you want them to know?
I just would say, look, I understand that there's a lot of need out there right now, and donations are tough to come by. But if $10 is what you can do, I'll take it for sure. And if you could spread the word anywhere. Unfortunately, what they say about GoFundMe is that the best way to spread the word is Facebook. So, unfortunately, I don't have that. But, to your listeners, $5-10 still means everything, and spread the word about GoFundMe.com/TradeLife and the Boys Town people, because they really do amazing work.
Awesome. And we'll put it up on our Facebook. We've got 5,000 friends on Facebook.
Excellent.
And we'll put it on our Twitter and our Instagram and all that for you. Well, thank you for coming on, Josh. Josh Temple, DIY expert, trade schools, and Boys Town. Appreciate having you. And hope to.
I had a great time, Callie.
Good, wonderful, and we'll hope to hear more of your good, wonderful work that you're doing. Thank you for listening to
I'll definitely report back.
Awesome. Thank you for listening to UnpauseYourLife.com, and listen again next week. Hey everyone, thanks again for listening. I really hope you enjoyed the show today. Head on over to iTunes and Apple Podcasts and leave a comment or review of what you think. Or contact us at 1-800-706-0318. If you want to be on our show, feel free to email or call. And if you have a topic, feel free to email or call as well.
Thanks for listening to Unpause Your Life. For show notes and more, head on over to unpauseyourlife.com.
Big shout out to recoveryinnovators.com for help producing this show. Thank you, guys.
I took a walk down the long road where they said that I shouldn't go. On my way found a reason to wake up another day. But they needed to show you all the things that you won't do. Find faith or religion, but nothing to show for it. No need to escape in love with my pain. I may be weak, but I'm alive, still alive, and I won't be bound by your mistake. No, I won't be your enemy, trapped at the gate. Bring me to life, put me to death. Just give me something that's just not so hard to believe. To believe. To believe. I took a walk down the dark road where they said that I shouldn't go. I knew the dangers of flying. Now I'm so far from silent ground. But they needed to show you all the things that you won't do. Find faith or religion, but nothing to show for it. No need to escape in love with my pain. I may be weak, but I'm alive, still alive, and I won't be bound by your mistake. No, I won't be your enemy, trapped at the gate. Bring me to life, put me to death. Just give me something that's just not so hard to believe. To believe. To believe. You lie. You lie. You lie. You lie. You lie. Till